And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shores Daily on this stormy Monday in Baton Rouge. Ronnie Rants alongside Tommy Christ and TK over in Port Allen, Louisiana, just across the Mississippi River Bridge at Court Street Cafe. I'm at an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Go to lasportshall.com and check out everything there. Don't forget the museum open Tuesday through Saturday up in Natchitoches from 10 until 4:30. Also, we're presented by LeBear's Casino, where we were this past Saturday for our radio show. We had the $50,000 blackjack tournament. TK went and saw the Marshall Tucker Band Saturday night at LeBear's, and it was the place to be and still is the place to be for all you March Madness, NCAA women's and men's viewing, watching, betting, all that kind of stuff at the ESPN Bet Sportsbook. All right, so today we'll talk about LSU baseball. They lose 2 out of 3 on the road at Texas. They'll take on the Raging Cajuns on Tuesday. Raging Cajuns, by the way, they win 2 out of 3 at South Alabama in Mobile. Also, this week's series against the Mississippi State Bulldogs, week 3 of the SEC series, will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Mark that down, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Mississippi State, by the way, lost 2 out of 3 to a ranked Oklahoma team over the weekend. I don't think it's a surprise that Missouri is 0-6, but we'll tell you who the other 2 teams are. That's a shocker that they are 0-6 in SEC play. We'll give you an update on Paul Maneri and how his South Carolina squad is doing. Kim Mulkey, 5 o'clock today in the PMAC. Tommy will delve into that and tell you what the line is against Florida State as they try to advance to the Sweet 16. Speaking of the Sweet 16, 7 SEC teams in the Sweet 16. That's our record in the men's side. We'll talk about that. Major League Baseball, the real opening day starts on Thursday. I know they started in Japan a couple games. That doesn't count. And then, of course, don't forget, rocking this Baton Rouge Rougarou polo. We've got Merch Monday. Every Monday, we got a great certain merchandise item on sale for 24 hours until midnight tonight. We got a great Rougarou trucker cap. Go check it out on our website or actually go to our social media. Go over there to our social media page, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check out Merch Monday. Got a $30 trucker hat, a specialty hat on sale for only $20 today. Get it right now, $20, $10 off on 24-hour sale every Monday for the BR Rougarou. Tommy, LSU baseball loses 2 out of 3 to Texas. They looked fantastic on Friday. They played about as perfect of a game as they could in an 8-2 win, minus a Stephen Milam insignificant error late at shortstop is only his second one of the year. Outside of that, they were almost perfect in their execution. And then what happened Saturday and Sunday?
Hey, you got to give Texas credit. Jay Johnson kind of did that. I mean, Texas is a great team. These 2 teams could play again in Hoover. They could play again in Omaha. You know, a lot of ground to cover between now and then, but that's the quality of these 2 teams. A lot of LSU fans were in the house, and Texas got it done at the plate and defensively in game 2 and 3 in front of their home crowd. It was wild and crazy. So LSU loses 2 out of 3, and I think the question marks that come up are, the pitching and the couple of guys that didn't have a good outing. They didn't get a lot of timely hitting. All them little cliches, but when you play a team like Texas, you got to play at your best like they did on Friday to have a shot to win, and they didn't get it done, and they'll regroup real quick.
The one thing I'll say, Tom, is I'm kind of looking up some stats here at the moment. I thought you had obviously Anderson on Friday was spectacular as a starter and did his job. But the 2 starting pitchers, Ianson and Shores, did not have quality starts on Saturday and Sunday, and that sort of set the tone, put you behind the 8 ball. They had a chance to win on Saturday, even with Ianson not making it to past 5. I actually thought they pulled Ianson a little too early in that game, considering LSU doesn't necessarily have middle relief right now. They are trying to figure that out. They've got back end relief. They don't really have middle relief. And I thought what Ianson was going to be better than the next guy who came in, and that proved out to be true. But right now, I feel like LSU has 5 pitchers, but they don't they know, sort of kind of know what they're going to get out of them. 3 out of every 4 times they go out, they kind of have a certain level of expectation and kind of have some consistency, but they don't have that. They don't have the middle relief right now, and that is a real problem for this team that they have got to sort out. Go ahead, TK.
And Roddy, hit your button. We don't see you.
Yeah.
And you got to sort it out. But when you starting pitchers don't have a good outing, like Ianson and Shores didn't have the best of outings, so then you got to get to that bullpen for the middle or the hold, and that's where LSU has not been at its best, or certainly they got to get better with that, especially because the starting pitcher they're not going to have a great outing every time. That's baseball, so you got to rely on them other guys, and it just did not work against a very, very good team. And look, there's a long way to go in the SEC. We played 6 games. Everybody's played 6, and of course you got 24 more to go. And everybody remember last year, the first 15 games for LSU didn't go real well. And they ended up, doing a lot better in the second half. Now with the strength of the schedule thing, the strength of the schedule is probably stronger this year because top to bottom, other than maybe Missouri, anybody can beat you.
Anderson, Ianson, and Shores. It blows my mind with Shores, Tommy, LSU's third starter. We know his story back in 23. He got injured early. He missed all of 24 due to, recovering from surgery. He's in his, he's a guy who is going to expected to be drafted in the first round this year or something like that. He's 6'8". He throws the ball pretty consistently between 94 and 97 miles an hour. Has a very good slider, and somehow he still gets hit. I just don't understand it. I don't know if it's poor pitch calling and selection in the mix. I think, I don't know the kid very well. I've heard he's a wonderful human being. He's a super sweetheart of a kid. Maybe he's too nice. I don't know, but there needs to be more killer. There needs to be more filth when you're 6'8" and you throw 94 to 97. With a wipeout slider. I don't understand how, and it's not just it isn't just Texas. He was getting hit non-conference against teams you got to look up on a map to find out where their school's located.
Well, I think people just sit in fastball. If he throws the wipeout slider, you got to be disciplined to lay off of the thing. You go up there. So what if it's strike one? You still got to look for a pitch to hit. And, I think his ball's up a little too much. I think he'd be better served closer to the knee than to the belt buckle. But, that's just my observation. But it is kind of odd that, even the non-conference teams and some of the times when he gets an out, the ball's hit pretty dang hard. That's the other thing. We always talk about command of where's the guy missing. Sometimes on them outs, if they're ripping line drives and, outfielders got to run them down and all that stuff, they're putting the bat on the ball against him. It's a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah, and right now, LSU, for having 18 arms on their roster, Gavin Guidry has not pitched yet this year, and clearly they are missing him because of his experience and success through his first 2 years. He's a big piece they're missing. But, even with Guidry, that's 6 arms. They have 18, 19 on their roster. That means they've got basically 13 arms that are being wasted right now. And obviously it's a wide open race. I think Maverick Rizzi made a big step forward in his last outing midweek, where I thought Maverick Rizzi's a guy on the come. He's a freshman, big 6'9" righty. I feel like he's coming. I thought they clearly rushed William Schmidt, the freshman from Catholic, the old pop the wine before it's time kind of analogy, Tommy. He hadn't been super battle tested in any way. Granted, there's a lot to like. He's one of the highest recruits ever out of high school. Schmidt's a guy that, 93 to 96 miles an hour, throws a lot of strikes generally. And the Tuesday before SEC play, the Tuesday before Missouri, he gets the start. He works his 1 inning. He does great. They only throw him 1 inning because all right, well, we expect you now to be weekend guy. And that's what Jay said on a Friday radio interview before the series. He probably will never pitch midweek again. Well, he goes out there. He's never pitched in the SEC. He's never pitched in front of all these people. And then all of a sudden he Doesn't do well on Saturday. In his first relief outing against Missouri, they almost lose the game. They win by 1. Then he goes out against Texas, does poorly again, can't throw strikes, gets hit. And so he's and literally, Tommy, and it'll be 2 weeks against UL. In about 3 weeks' time, he's thrown a total of about 2 innings. And look, I don't care who you are and how good you are. There's only a handful of freshmen in the history of LSU baseball in the last 40 years that as freshmen go out there and their rotation in the middle of the week donkeys. Weekend donkeys. Like for everybody else, no matter how talented you are, you got even Ben McDonald. You got to throw your midweek games. You got to pitch in relief on the weekends when you way up or way down. Get that confidence, get your feet wet, And he got thrown into the fire against Missouri with 2 men on in a situation, and then he did the same thing against Texas. So now you got to rebuild this kid's confidence as opposed to slow rolling him up. You threw him too fast in the grease, and I think that's kind of clearly just what happened. And there's nothing wrong with William Schmidt. He's going to be a great pitcher at LSU, but not everybody is Aaron Nola. Not everybody is Scott Schultz or Brett Laxton. Those are 3 names in 30 years that I threw out, right? You gotta bring other guys along and slowly, and they didn't with Schmidt, and now you got to rebuild them because he's going out there 2 times and wet the bed.
Oh, and the other thing, I think you got to pitch. You got to pitch. You got to pitch. You got to throw the ball. And Jay Johnson has a very quick hook. Paul Maneri was criticized a lot for having a late hook. Jay, I think, has got too early of a hook. Sometimes you got to let a guy work through something, especially a young guy. And that's a judgment thing. That's totally subjective. I get that, but I'm the old school guy that believes the more you throw, the better condition your arm gets in, and then you'll be better at the end of April and in May when you got to win some games. So, but Nate Yeskie and Jay Johnson know way more about it than me. But you and I do know a lot about pitching compared to some people. So therefore, let's see if they can't give guys more work. We just have to see. I mean, he gets that quick hook sometimes. I mean, I'd say the pitcher's going to get the guy out 70% of the time.
Well, the thing is that you can't. You got to have a quick hook in a 1-run SEC ball game. That's what.
We lost Ronnie for half a second here. We'll get him back very soon. Oh, he jumped out there. Give me a chance to remind you about Court Street Cafe here in Port Allen, where they got breakfast, lunch, dinner, Monday through Saturday. Saturday night, steak night with steak specials, filet, ribeye, the whole bit. Don't forget Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Full-service bar. Jason and the staff do a super job. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. As we always say, just a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge.
The thing I'll say is I don't think – I agree with the quick hook when you're at Texas in the middle of a game and it's tight game. That's why I think – it's more about the arm care. It's more about just experience. It's more about adaptability. Like if you think that pitching against a school, directional school on a Tuesday and throwing 2 or 3 innings is the same as throwing in Austin against Texas in a sold out venue in game 2. No, it's not. It's not. And so you gotta get them innings and get them work and get them experience and let them work on their craft and work out the jitters and all the things and get polished and ready to go for the weekend midweek. But then on the midweek, that first time or 2 needs to be, let's crawl before we can walk. Let's walk before we can run. And that wasn't the case. And now you're doing damage control. I look, LSU's got confidence in Evans and Cowan on the back end. They are fantastic. They're as good a relievers as there are in the country. Evans, the freshman out of Texas. Cowan, the transfer from Wofford. Cowan was fantastic on Friday. Anderson Cowan combined to just be dominant, not walk a soul against Texas. And then that was it. The rest of the weekend outside of Evans was rough. I think you're going to see more Cooper Williams, the freshman lefty. They're going to try him. I mean, DJ Primo is not getting it done as a lefty option out of that bullpen. I hate to say that. The Central High product, former Baton Rouge Rougarou, great kid. it's just not getting. He's just not getting it done. He doesn't throw enough strikes. At this point, he's not. I wouldn't even say he's a coin flipper. 2 out of every 3 times he goes out there, he's not doing his job. And they don't have a lot of lefty options. So Cooper Williams is probably going to be a guy that gets some more chances to try to see if they can turn some bats around. But I mean, outside of the 3 starters and Evans and Cowan, and I think Maverick Rizzi on the come, maybe Cooper Williams getting more opportunity. You got what you got. And while you're waiting on William Schmidt for it to click, and while you're waiting on some of these other guys to be consistent in the strike zone, they have real problems just straight throwing strikes. And against a Texas team, Tommy, their approach offensively is so fun to watch. I mean, they just bleed pitchers dry. And that's what Jim Schlossnagle does. He makes pitchers throw a lot of pitches. Their teams don't generally swing at balls out of the zone very often. And they just work that pitch count up. And no matter, even if you're a good pitcher, they're going to get to the bullpen. All right, you might get us while you're in there, but we're going to get to the next guy, because the reality is, in college baseball, over 3 games, do you have 9 pitchers that can all throw strikes? And they're betting on you can't. They're betting on you might have 2 or 3 that pound the zone, but our approach is going to bleed your other 6, and we're going to win the series. And I think that's what happened against LSU.
Well, certainly Schlossnagle is a great coach and has been in several different places. And, of course, Nolan Cain, your buddy Nolan Cain. I know Nolan, coaching third and doing a good job with that program. So Texas is a good team. Don't trust me. They're going to make noise in Hoover. They're going to make noise in the summer in the tournament. And probably, they got as great a shot as anybody of being in Omaha.
Curious to see what the rankings come out and everything like that.
Wow, LSU's 5 in Baseball America.
Who's number 1?
You would have.
Tennessee went 2-2 last week after being 20-0. They lost 2 in a row, but did win their series against Alabama. So they're 2-2 in the week. Obviously, Texas had an impressive run. They had won 18 in a row. They lose to LSU, but win 2 out of 3. So I imagine Texas is going to move up. So Tommy's looking that up. While he is, the shocker of the SEC season through the first 2 of 10 weekends is that Texas A&M preseason number 1 in all the polls.
Texas is now number 1.
Yeah, I figured that by virtue of who they beat, they probably had to jump up there. And they look like a number.
No, I'm sorry. Tennessee's 1, Arkansas 2, Texas 3, Georgia 4, LSU 5. Top 5 are LSU.
All right. Look, as far as like quality of schedule and who you beat, I mean, Tennessee probably, in virtue of that, deserves to be number 1. They beat Alabama. Alabama's a real legit team. Alabama's 4-2, just like LSU. The Florida Gators 0-6, A&M 0-6, Missouri 0-6. We expected Missouri. We did not expect A&M and Florida to be 0-6 through their first 2 weekend series. These are 2 top 10 teams, and A&M's a team that's expected to win the national championship based on the polls. Florida has been decimated by injury. Yes, A&M lost its stud third baseman, but outside of that, A&M's just been in a debacle and a disaster. I don't see them coming out of it, Tommy. I think they're spiraling with a first-year head coach and coming off of a team that finished, right behind Tennessee for the national championship. It's got to be wild and crazy in Aggie land. They strike out too much. It's just crazy right now what's going on. I don't understand it.
Well, it's hard to figure. If you're Texas A&M and Florida, you got to say, okay, we got 24 conference games left. We got to turn this thing around, take it 1 game at a time. And they're going to get hot at some point, but can they get hot enough to get into the picture, get to Hoover, have success, et cetera? But that is a surprising story. And then, of course, Paul Maneri's South Carolina Gamecocks 1-5. They're just a notch above the Missouri A&M and Florida, but the top of the conference, trust me, is loaded.
Yeah, and South Carolina went and got clobbered at Arkansas. 10-run ruled on Friday, beat by 9 on Saturday. Hung in there for a little while on Sunday before Arkansas won. South Carolina was literally 1 out away from getting out of, from winning the series against Oklahoma weekend 1, but didn't happen. And now it looks like it's a little bit expected. South Carolina wasn't expected to be good. Did you see Pulmonary fall down? Did you see the video that went around?
I didn't see that.
So during the week,
What happened? I got to hear this.
during the week, he had I don't know if it was last weekend against Oklahoma or Tuesday's game or whatever, but a batter, I don't know if he missed the signal or whatever, and Coach Maneri came running out of the. He took a ball three. I'm sorry, he took a strike, thought it was a ball, flipped the bat towards the dugout, thought he had drawn a walk, and the bat went rolling towards the dugout. And Coach Maneri came out to say something to the player or the umpire, I can't remember which. And when he kind of came jogging out of the dugout, quick, walking fast, and he tripped over the bat that was laying on deck circle. I mean, face first. Got up real quick, but it made its way around social media. Hey man, that's what happens when you're in your upper 60s, Tommy. You gotta be head on a swivel for all the things.
Hey, you're right. You know, of course, we didn't talk about it, but Jay Johnson got ejected yesterday. He wasn't happy with the first base hump, but you can kind of read his lips. We don't have to say what he said here, but you know and he was trying to get some kind of spark for the team, and he got booed as late into Game 3.
Well, I think that was more of a frustration ejection than anything. I think he was good to go.
He balled over. He balled over on the bunt thing.
A player for Texas squared around the bunt, pulled the bat back late. He thought it was a strike that he offered at the bat. I thought it was fine. I mean, it was close, but I wouldn't have called it a strike he didn't offer. He laid the bat out there and he pulled it back.
But it's not about offering. It's does the bat cross the plane to the front of the plate, and I thought it did. It doesn't matter where your wrists are. It doesn't matter where anything is. Does the barrel of the bat cross the front of the plate? I thought it did, but again, we put 10 guys in the room, and Bob will say it did. Bob will say it didn't. But I think that was the culmination of Jay Johnson. The frustration from Saturday when he had to use 7 pitchers, and then Sunday. But Jay Johnson knows that Texas is a very good team, but he got tossed. He probably got tired of looking at it.
And that was, and he told him that was 2 times. He yelled down to the first man. That was 2 times that had happened that day. 50-50 call. But I wish he would have, when he got tossed, went and got his money's worth. At that point, when they toss you, go back out there and put on a little show, and maybe that'll motivate your team. Just walking off, I mean, at that point, come on, go. Once you've been tossed, go get you an extra 30 seconds in his ass, basically, and get in his face and turn the hat around and do all that to get the crowd going and all that,
I remember legendary coach Mike Knight from Nichols in Hammond one day. He got tossed, and he was in the umpire's face by the plate. And the umpire about heard enough, and he said, "You got 60 seconds to get out of here, or I'm going to forfeit this game." Well, Mike Knight kept talking. We all sit in the dugout cracking up. And all of a sudden, the ump says, "I told you had to go." Knight goes, "I still got 30 seconds." And he kept hollering. And then he ran for the gate. It was funny back in the day. Mike Knight was quite the character, longtime Nichols baseball coach. I never forget. That was so funny.
Mike Knight, who never liked a red light at first base. I mean, that guy gave the green light a lot. They always were top 5 in the nation in stolen bases when he was coaching. All right, this weekend, Mississippi State comes to town. That's a blue blood matchup. Two of the old school donkeys. When you think Mississippi State and LSU, you think Ron Polk and Skip Bertman. They will play Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So looking forward to that. Curious to see who Jay Johnson kind of goes with out of that bullpen besides the 5 we talked about, because he's clearly going to start trying some folks out. And I think you're going to see Maverick Rizzi get the ball one of the first times this weekend. LSU women's basketball, huge crowd, even though it was a 9:15 tip on Friday, and they had everybody back healthy, and they played one of their best games of the year. They scored over 100 points. They shot 10 threes. Hopefully they can carry that on to Florida State today and meet the Sweet 16. How big is the spread today for Kim Mulkey's squad?
It was 10.5 when I bet it. Now it's 11.5. 5 o'clock tip against Florida State. I bet Kim Mulkey's Tigers minus 11.5. I don't think they'll have a big scoring output like they did Saturday night. but they're just going to be better than Florida State. The home crowd will be rocking. 5 o'clock, better tip time for most of the fans. And the weather is supposed to clear up this afternoon, so weather shouldn't be an issue if you're heading out to see the Tigers play in the PMAC with the tip right after 5 o'clock.
Also, the Sweet 16 for men starts later this week. And by the way, before we talk about 7 SEC teams, which is a record in the Sweet 16, shout out to Will Wade and the McNeese State Cowboys. Of course, they win their opening round game last week and then hold off Clemson as the 12 seed. Take on Purdue. Game was over in the first half, but give them credit. They battled and really outplayed Purdue in the second half. Will Wade, very emotional after the game. Of course, he's headed to NC State to be their head coach, but very emotional with his players. Talked about the community and how he needed Lake Charles and Lake Charles needed him, and it was a great fit. It was really nice to see that his 2 years at McNeese meant so much to him. And I guess, for Will Wade, who had to sit out a year coaching after being fired at LSU and kind of was blackballed a little bit, there weren't a lot of schools that were going to take a chance on him. McNeese was. They took a chance on him. He took a chance on them, and it worked out brilliantly. The 2 best years McNeese basketball's ever had. Think about it, Tommy. They had 23 losses the year before he got there. The next year, he had 30 wins. That's a 53 win, game differential. That is just crazy. That doesn't happen, and that gives you an idea how good of a coach he is. Oh, by the way, he was sort of rumored to be maybe in line to be the Texas coach. He found out that wasn't going to happen. They hired Miller from Xavier, who was the former Arkansas Arizona coach, who was also involved in some FBI shenanigans and whatnot as well. So they ended up going with Texas. Went with a guy with a little bit of a shady reputation and a cloudy past, just like Will Wade.
Well, there's a lot of coaches out there. Bruce Pearl had his incidents. Kelvin Sampson, who's got Houston still playing, and Calipari. I mean, all these guys, Patino, they all had a little something. But the bottom line is they can coach basketball. They can put a team on the floor that can win basketball games, and that's what they do. And Will Wade is certainly on that list. 6-year deal reportedly at NC State. I haven't seen any numbers yet, but that'll come out sooner or later. Ronnie, I got to mention. Go
ahead, Tommy.
I want to mention. Saturday night, I went to the Marshall Tucker Band concert at LaBerge in the event center. It was outstanding. But Trey Blossman, who you don't know, but you know because of my relationship with him in radio and podcast and all that, first time he'd ever been to the ESPN Bet Sportsbook. And Trey, big gambler, loves to gamble, all that stuff. Very impressed with the ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Very impressed with LaBerge. He had never been there before, and he was among the group of us and Bert Broussard, who all went to the Marshall Tucker Band concert. But I wanted to give that shout out to LaBerge and the ESPN Bet Sportsbook that Trey Blossman was very impressed and says he'll be back.
13 years it took him to get to LaBerge, huh?
Well, he doesn't go out a lot. He's not one of them. It was rare that he ventures away from his house, especially at this point. But he did, and he had a great time. We talked again yesterday. So just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, good. Talking about the NC State job where Will Wade's headed, we haven't heard the numbers yet as far as money, but the former coach that they let go is making, I think, 3.2. So, he's going to be making at least that. He's going to be making at least $3 million, and he was making $700,000 at McNeese. So, over 4.5 times more money is what he's going to be making, plus a guarantee, beyond that for years. So it was a no-brainer for him to leave.
Do mention what you mentioned the other day. McNeese is going to get a nice little check too, part of his buyout thing, especially with him going to a Power 4 conference school. So, McNeese, they'll put their head down and find a coach and keep going forward. It'd be tough to follow what Will Wade has done for 2 years in Lake Charles, but somebody's going to have to do it, and somebody will take that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to be him, that's for sure, but they're in a good spot. They're in a good situation. The community is still primed, excited about basketball, and like you said, they're going to get a paycheck for they've got a buyout clause. I don't know the exact number. I had heard it was maybe about $1 million, but regardless, they're going to get probably about 1 year's salary back. You paid Will Wade for 2 years. Your buyout's going to be basically 1 year of his salary. So you're in a good spot financially. McNeese is to do the right thing and hopefully keep it rolling over there. SEC 7 teams in the Sweet 16, first time that's ever happened for a conference. The most teams ever in the Sweet 16 from one conference. There was a lot of people that were snickering about 14 teams getting into the SEC tournament. Well, half the field after 2 games is going to the Sweet 16.
Well, it's funny. Dan Patrick said this morning, Greg Sankey must have sent an email to all the basketball teams like, we know we got the best football and baseball conference. Let's up the basketball conference. Can you remember, Ronnie, I was thinking of this on the way here to Port Allen today before Street Cafe. I'm going back, 6-7 years ago, they had 3 teams in the NCAA tournament. And, of course, they didn't have 16. They had 14 teams, but percentage-wise, because they were just bad basketball, But now, I mean, wow, 7 teams in the Sweet 16 from the SEC. 2 are playing each other, so we know one of them is going to be out, because Arkansas and Tennessee play. So Tennessee and Kentucky play. So one of those is going to lose, but it's going to be a fun Sweet 16 this coming weekend. March Madness continues, and what a great place to watch it out at the ESPN Bet Sportsbook. It was packed Saturday.
There's not going to be I don't think there's going to be 4 teams from the SEC in the Final Four, but there is a path. The way the brackets are broken down and the way those 7 teams are sprinkled, there is at least one SEC team and all of the 4 pods left. So it could potentially happen. But as far as the 7 teams that are left, I mean, you have 4 teams going to the Final Four. Is your Final Four still alive?
Yes, it is. And I have 11 of the 16 teams that are still playing are in my bracket. It's not a good bracket, although it's got a chance to get a little better. Still not going to be anywhere near the top. But, it's because I went chalk and SEC, when I filled out the bracket. And I don't follow college basketball as close as I once did, especially Nashville. I follow the SEC, the Sun Belt, and the Southland, things like that. But I went chalk, and there's no team that's an 11 or lower seed still playing for the first time in a long time. So if you went chalk, you went SEC, you're going to have an okay bracket.
Yeah, that is surprising. As you mentioned, there's nobody 11 or lower. And most people are always trying to figure out who those couple upsets are, to affect their bracket. I saw something on ESPN, 24 million brackets, only one perfect bracket after the first 2 rounds. That's pretty surprising.
Yeah, usually there's more, a couple hundred. And again, now with AI and, people that do 100 brackets, sooner or later, if I did 100 brackets, one of them might be pretty good, might be in the top percentile. But no, so yeah, it's going to be a fun Sweet 16. There's some big-time matchups. And, again, chalk and SEC. So you got teams – not only do you have the best teams going into the tournament, but through 2 rounds, you get the teams that have played the best basketball. Did only have one buzzer beater. Maryland beat Colorado State with a true buzzer beater. Ball left his hand. Clock runs out. His backboard goes in. Other than that, you hadn't had any of those, buzzer beaters. There's only been one through the first 2 rounds. But don't be surprised if it happens again.
Maryland was down a point to Colorado State with about 3.5 seconds to play. They inbounded it on their own end, and they hit their talent, who took a couple dribbles and then took 3 steps. Now, if we're just not going to call travel and we're not going to call walking, then take the freaking rule out of the book. It has gotten so ridiculous. You think it's bad in college? Watch the NBA. It's just I don't even know why they dribble. They literally shouldn't dribble. They just shouldn't. What's the point? Okay, if you're not ever going to call a travel, then why dribble? I don't understand. Play handball. That's what it is. Okay, but I think in handball you even have to dribble so often or something like that. I don't know the rules, but like he literally took 3 steps. 5 years ago, that would have been, I don't even know if it's 5, maybe 4 years ago, the whistle would have been blown. He'd have been called for travel. He took 3 steps. Watch the replay. But yet nobody says anything. It's bizarre to me, Tommy, how all of a sudden in the last 5 years, there are no rule. There's no travel. There's no walking. It doesn't get called at any level anymore.
Ronnie, I watched a lot of college basketball this weekend, more than I watched probably all season put together. Okay, a million traveling calls were not called. Okay, and I get it when you're up there at the top of the key and they hand you the ball and you shuffle your feet. It's still traveling, but I mean, you're right. It is bad, and I don't like it. I'm old school. I mean, and I don't like it when you travel and hit a bucket, or you travel down the lane, or you travel and give yourself an advantage. That's the whole thing with basketball referee. Did he get an advantage? Was a disadvantage created? Then you blow the whistle. But I mean, it is ridiculous. More so in the NBA, as you said. But in the basketball tournament this weekend, there were 25,000 traveling calls that weren't called, at least.
I don't understand. Like, it's not about old school or new school basketball. It's about they have rules.
Sure.
And then at some point, without a vote, without any discussion, without a group of people, I don't know who they are, decided, we're not going to enforce those rules. Like, what? So when did they decide, you know what, these two rules that have been on the books since basketball was created, we don't need those. And that's it. It changes the game, Tommy. It is a different game if you do not have to dribble.
And here's the thing. It's horrible. It's awful. I'm like you. Who changed the rules? But what if in a Sweet 16 game this weekend, somebody does get called for traveling that made a key bucket or something like that, and then everybody's going to say, wait a minute, that wasn't traveling last weekend. I mean, it's I think it's a bad look for the game, and it's not a way to teach the kids. Okay,
that how do you play defense if they don't have to dribble? And they don't have to dribble, and it can take 3, 4, 5 steps. I mean, all the time you're down on the low block, for example. You're a defender, you're big, and the guy has his back to the basket, gets the ball, and you're trying to play defense, and he can just spin, turn, take 3 extra steps. Like, no, where's the pivot foot? That doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's not the game. They're playing banana ball. You know what I mean by that is, the basis is baseball, but they decided banana ball to invent 12, 13 rules and play a different game. It ain't baseball. It's literally called banana ball. It has different rules. This is not basketball. If you're not going to call travels, you're not going to call walks, you don't have to have a pivot foot, then you're playing a different game. Call it something else, but it's not basketball, because that's the key to basketball. You dribble, you take 2 steps. You can take 2 steps after you pick up the ball. Like, you can't take 3. It's in the rules.
Well, I agree with you. That's a great analogy. Banana ball is not baseball, but it's rooted in baseball. And then the other thing, Ronnie, 3 seconds in the lane never gets called anymore. And I know the old thing was, if you were a ref and you count to 3, you look away, you look back. If he's still there, you hit the whistle, okay? Or you yell at him, 54, better get out of the lane or I'm hitting the whistle next time. But I've seen countless times guys with the ball are in the lane 5, 6 seconds, okay? And then they release the ball and stay in the lane. I mean, that's clearly breaking the 3-second rule. I mean, I don't know if there was a 3-second call all weekend in all, they had all the games that they had. Now, I didn't see every minute of every game, but that's another thing. That's not as bad as the walking thing, but it's still, what the hell ever happened to the rule? Take the rule away. Let the guy put. And then how about the guy that's in there 5, 6 seconds and then he travels? He commits 2 violations, 2 blatant breaking the rules.
Good news is that out of all the rules, the 3-second rule would be the one I'm least upset about, because nobody plays through the lane anymore. They all shoot 3. So most of the time they're out anyway on the wing. Very rare that they're in the lane. All right, TK, we'll get into Major League Baseball opening day, which is Thursday. We'll talk about it on Wednesday. And don't forget Merch Monday, Baton Rouge, Rougarou right now. We've got every Monday for 24 hours from sun up to the time midnight hits. We've got a certain merchandise item on sale. Check out the Rougarou Gray Trucker. It's $10 off. Go to brrougarou.com. Go to our social media. You can click on our apparel and check it out on Shopify. TK, tell us about Court Street Cafe.
Hey, 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, dinner here in Port Allen. Just a couple of minutes over the Mississippi River Bridge. Jason and the staff do a super job here at Court Street Cafe. If you haven't made the trip, you haven't stopped by, You need to do it. You'll be glad you did. You'll become a regular customer. Connect with them on Facebook and Instagram. You'll learn about lunch specials, the dinner of the week special, and much more. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. We're back Wednesday morning. As we always say, don't forget to like and share this show. That helps everybody. See you on Wednesday morning for another episode of Sports Shorts Daily. I'm Tommy Christ saying, have a good day, everyone.